Hello.
Hello.
For the first
Hey.
time in a long time, welcome back to Silver and Steel, which is
Hi.
our Witcher game sponsored by the wonderful Artalsorian Games. We'll go around and introduce everyone, so you've all got a bit of a recap of who we are, who we play. So Nova, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Nova. Um, I am playing the Witcher lass Rhiannon, who uses she/her pronouns, same as me. And yeah, she's unconscious right now.
Yeah, face down in the dirt. Yeah. And we have Vex.
Hi, I'm Vex. Um, she, her pronouns, and I'm playing Maeve, the sorceress who really likes fire. And she
Yeah.
also uses she, her pronouns. And she just lit everybody on fire around here to make sure and tried to make sure Rhiannon didn't get killed.
I mean, it's a tried and true method, so.
Hey, if something doesn't catch on fire, all you need is just more fire.
If
If
it's
it
not
broke, don't
broke, don't
fix it.
fix it. Yeah.
If it's not on fire, light it on fire.
um, and we have Hera.
Yep, I'm Hera, and I am playing Katrin, the doctor, and I'm using, same as my character, she/her pronouns. And well, she just delivered a baby, and now apparently has to save a Witcher. Doctor's work's never done.
Yeah. And today we have a guest. We have Sophia.
Hello. I'm I'm Sophia, or you can call me Als, and I'm playing Saffi, um, who will introduce soon.
Yeah.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. I'm Sarah or Mustang. I don't mind which. I am the game master. And we are going to be picking up from the last episode, so we're just going to do a quick recap. So last episode, the players were kind of just on the road traveling through a very old battlefield where a recent battle had taken place between the Redanians and the Nilfgaardians. And just for context, the Redanians are the north and the Nilfgaardians are the south of the continent. And at the moment, the Nilfgaardians are trying to make this great big empire by conquering everything. And we found the players came across a place called Brenna, a very small village which was just on the edge of this battlefield. And as they were on their way there, they found they came across a couple of ghouls, and I believe you didn't even fight them. I believe you went round them. I can't remember exactly. Um,
No, I think we
because there were
tried
quite a lot of
to
them.
get around
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
but I think it was Maeve who was like, "Yeah, no, fuck this shit," and like went right in, and then we basically
That's about right.
we slaughtered them basically. Even Catherine
Yeah.
got a kill.
Yeah, so we already established there's a lot of necrophages in the area, and necrophages, feasting on dead bodies of these soldiers, the ones that are left behind. And when they got to Brenna, they found that these people in the village were having quite a lot of problems. They relied heavily on trade that came in and out through the village, through a trade route that passes all the way through and through woodlands surrounding it. And we found out that there was a Nilfgaardian camp a day's ride to the east. Um, and the Nilfgaardians currently weren't helping this village at all, or were doing very, very little. Just kind of like keeping an eye in the area, but not really getting involved. But the villagers were complaining of there being attacks happening in this woodland, which was preventing them from hunting. And without trade, hunting had been the only way they'd been able to get food and, survive. Um, so they were in dire need of a witcher, and thankfully, both a witcher and a sorceress happened to pass through. And our witcher, Rhiannon, was given a contract by the alderman, a human called Dag. And it is important that we establish that the village here were entirely human. And they went into the forest after, looking at some of these corpses. And Rhiannon and Maeve and Catherine, they all were very suspicious that this wasn't a monster like the villagers were suspecting. They believed it had more natural causes, as in humanoids were doing this, and the telltale signs of black feathered arrows, which were significant kind of dead ringers really for the Scoia'tael, which are a faction of rebel elves who frequently convalesce and hide in woodland in lands that originally were their own before they were claimed by humans and taken away from them. And they came across an old elven ruin of a tower, and they found that there was the Scoia'tael camping out there, and the Scoia'tael were led by two elves, a male elf called Daerin and his lover Agley, and she Agley was pregnant and currently in labor. And through discovering why these Scoia'tael were here, because it was very unusual to see them this far into the continent. They normally live on like the edges or in main forest areas, such as the forest of Broccolon. And when they found out why they were there, it was because a Nilfgaardian captain called Captain Aelwyn had basically done the typical Nilfgaardian thing of promising the elves their land back in return for them giving soldiers to the Nilfgaardian army. So these elves had fought for the Nilfgaardians to help win that battle against the Temerians. And instead of giving them their land back, the Nilfgaardians then turned on this faction of Scoia'tael, and a faction that was originally about, I think I said 600 strong, had been cut down to just 20 elves left. And currently they were trying to escape. Captain Aelwyn was currently searching through the forest, which is why the Nilfgaardians didn't care for what was happening in the village. And they couldn't leave because Agley was currently in labor. They could not move her, so they had been basically protecting the camp as best as they could, which unfortunately meant some villagers, innocent villagers, had gotten shot in the process and killed by arrows because the elves were, incredibly cornered and needed to protect themselves, and were afraid that anyone was like a Nilfgaardian spy. And Catherine offered to help deliver this baby, and the rest, Rhiannon and Maeve, decided they were going to go out into the forest and look for this Captain Aelwyn and try and reason with him. Captain Aelwyn, funnily enough, could not be reasoned with. So unsurprising for a Nilfgaardian. He couldn't be reasoned with, even though his soldiers did have some doubts that they shouldn't really be going after this faction of elves and killing them after they'd fought so bravely for them. But they had to do what their captain told them. And so Rhiannon and Maeve and the other Scoia'tael members, apart from Agley, obviously, and Catherine, confronted Captain Aelwyn and fought him in a very aggressive and bloody battle, which ended with Maeve kind of burning everyone to ash, including Captain Aelwyn, and Rhiannon taking a kind of grievous wound, I guess, and is fallen unconscious on the ground, with Catherine not aware that this has happened because Catherine was busy delivering a baby. So we will pick up with Rhiannon and Maeve. So Maeve, you've managed to control the flames of your spells, reduce them down, and snuff them out. Before the whole forest catches on fire, and what is left of Captain Aelwyn is kind of just like this mess of charred flesh and bones and his armor and everything has kind of fused to what remains of his body from like the very intense heat. The other soldiers, two of them, I believe, ran away and completely, were just like, yep, we're not dealing with this because it's a bunch of Scoia'taels, a powerful sorceress, and a witcher. No, thank you. And left. They clearly deserted. And the rest of the soldiers had all been picked off by the Scoia'tael one by one. So yeah, you are now here with the Scoia'tael, who are now, lowering their bows, putting away their arrows, tending to their wounded. Maeve, you have been left with Rhiannon, who is currently collapsed on the ground, has dropped her steel sword, I believe. Oh no, steel spear, is it?
No, she has a
Rhiannon?
silver spear and a steel sword. So in this
Yeah,
case,
okay.
sword.
So you were using your silver sword, your steel sword against a human. So yeah, she has currently dropped this weapon on the ground and is face down.
Yeah, Maeve kind of knows her capabilities and knows fire isn't going to help this.
Yeah.
I mean, it might.
I mean, it could cauterize, but
Yeah, just cauterize my whole
it's-
body.
Give you the Anakin treatment. All right.
Mm-hmm.
the Anakin treatment.
Well, she's not bleeding anymore then.
Exactly. But no, she'll take off to where Katrine is because she knows her capabilities are not in met first aid.
Okay. Yeah, as the rest of the elves are tending to their wounded, Catherine, you have delivered this baby. Agley is, exhausted and very emotional. She's holding this small baby to her chest, and seems to be, on the edge of basically just falling asleep. She's that exhausted. The baby has stopped crying and, has since fallen to sleep as well. Everything's taken care of on that front. When Maeve suddenly, smashes open the door of this ruined tower that you're in, dragging a very unconscious Rhiannon.
I seriously doubt that Maeve could carry Rhiannon. I'm just gonna
Okay.
say that.
Less carrying, more perhaps dragging over one
She
shoulder.
definitely-
I'll say one of the Scoia'tael elves as
Yeah.
well. That
I
wasn't
have a
injured
5
came
in
and
body.
helped.
Yeah,
I just imagine Catherine. You moved her.
both of you two assume that Maeve would make her hands dirty by carrying her herself.
Just ties a rope around Rhiannon and just drags her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Catherine, yeah, you see is very grievously injured. Rhiannon.
Yeah, without a word, I go to work.
Mhm. Sure thing.
I have my whole instruments and everything here, and I'm trying to save this witcher who's currently, I believe, bleeding out. I believe was if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
If you want to, assess the wounds and everything, you can make a first aid to find, exactly what is wrong here.
Yeah, I believe there's even a specific skill for that
Yeah.
that I can roll. It's
Hmm.
called diagnose.
Yes, I forgot. Yeah, this profession has diagnose.
That is 19.
Okay, yeah. A lot of it is just, kind of bruises. You see that the head wound is actually quite superficial. It seems to just be like a cut, but obviously head wounds bleed quite a lot. And so you're not too concerned about that. You check, she hasn't got a concussion. Her pupils seem fine, as fine as a witch's pupils can be, considering they're cat pupils. But like they're not blown or disproportionate in size or anything. But you are worried about her ribs. You see, as you're feeling down, that some of them are cracked, specifically on the left-hand side of her chest.
Oh,
So Rhiannon, with cracked ribs,
Griffin pupils in this case, by the way.
Griffin pupils, yes.
Mhm.
So Rhiannon, with cracked ribs, at the moment, it makes it very painful for you to breathe and exert any strength. So like heavy lifting.
Mhm.
So you take currently just a -2 to your body at the moment. Obviously,
Mhm.
then I've got to do the whole stabilized and treated thing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Catherine,
right now I'm unconscious, so all my stats are
yes.
like I only have a third of them anyway. So my
Yeah.
body's already down to
so
1.
okay, yeah, that's
So-
fine. You can leave that as is then.
Mhm.
So Catherine, healing hands, right? That you have.
Yeah, I have healing hands. I will attempt to stabilize her and care for the most dangerous injuries first.
Yeah.
Make sure that
Um,
those don't get any worse. Especially broken ribs can be really bad.
Yeah, they can, especially if they shift.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
then after that, I will also care for the other wounds so they don't get infected. Just clean them and everything.
yeah, sure thing.
There's some big
So
gashes
with the
there.
ribs, you bind. Okay,
So
what's your roll for that?
that's a 10 on the. So that's a 26, and I roll again.
Yeah, you roll again. Yeah. So pretty good job. Did you roll another 10? Yeah, then you roll again.
So we're at 36 now. Okay, 37. Now I rolled a 1.
Okay. We're getting the 10s out of the way early, so then I
Yeah.
can beat you down with monsters. But yeah, you assess these wounds. Immediately disregard any of the superficial ones. You can deal with that in a bit. You're very concerned about these ribs, so you bind them properly. Making sure that Rhiannon's still able to breathe just enough, but not enough to dislodge these cracked ribs. There are a few cuts over her face, the superficial head wound. Those are all very easily, flushed out. A few of them may need like a stitch or two, but nothing too bad that would, especially with a witch's healing capabilities, they heal very quickly anyway. So you think that maybe like the cut on her face probably won't even scar, as long as it's taken care of properly. And with that roll, it certainly is. So yeah, when you are now stabilized, Rhiannon, so like when you go back to your full stats, you will just have a -1 to body
Mhm.
until you just are like treated, because treated happens like a few days later, like once you've had time to heal properly. So at the moment you're stabilized.
Mhm.
So
Now, what
yeah,
does that mean for my HP?
mhm.
Like from the wounds, I was at
Because your HP is at
-1.
0.
So now
Yes.
that I'm stabilized, I'm at 0,
So now
what?
now you're stabilized, you're at 1. You're at 1.
Okay.
So like you're conscious now. So Rhiannon, you sort of like come around, Catherine's got these like a little tube of like smelling salts to kind of, wake you up,
Mhm.
kind of thing. You come around, to a very familiar pain in your ribs. You've had broken ribs before. It happens, like especially during Witcher training more often than not. With like the dreaded gauntlet that you have to run and all the other things they put you through. And
Mhm.
you come around, and it's to a sort of a simpering cry of like a baby who just like on the edge of crying, but not like full crying yet, kind of just whining, and a woman's voice singing in elder speech. And I'm not going to sing in elder speech, I can only speak it very brokenly, so you can just imagine um, what that would be like. Maybe Google some or YouTube some Welsh lullabies, because that's pretty much what elder speech is. It's just Welsh. um, so yeah, Rhiannon, you come around to that. Maeve, you see Rhiannon come around as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Catherine
Rhiannon.
will ask one of the elves for. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Catherine will ask one of the elves for some hot water because she wants to make a tea of numbing herbs to give to the Witcher, because she's probably in incredible pain and can probably use something to numb that.
Yeah, there's kind of like a deference now in the way that the other Scoia'tael behave around you, because before, like you're 3 humans, and an elf, and obviously not a member of the Scoia'tael, so they're very kind of shut off to begin with, very suspicious of you. But now, you ask for hot water, and like they, immediately do it. They are very grateful for not only having got rid of Captain Aylwin very permanently, for them, but also the fact that you've given you helped Agley give birth to a child, and elven children aren't very common. Like born babies aren't very common anymore, among the Scoia'tael especially. So there's like this kind of deference. They immediately go and rush and get anything and everything that you need, anything that you want, they go and get it. If they have it. Yeah. So
Rhiannon kind of like groans very loudly when she opens her eyes, like, then she opens her eyes and looks at Catherine and the others and like, guess I'm a little bit more rusty than I thought. And then she tries to sit up and feels the sting of her ribs. She's like, no, maybe not.
No, Catherine like immediately like just puts like a single finger like on your temples, like, nope. Take it slowly.
She
doctor's orders.
She glares at her, which is like, but she doesn't say anything. So like, yeah.
You can get up once I can't hold you down with a single finger anymore.
Fine.
Yeah, this this big burly witcher being held down by a human just like that with one finger.
She could probably get up anyway, but that would hurt. So she's obviously not gonna try that.
Yeah.
And she just looks around and then sees Maeve, just like, so we dealt with all of that, right?
He won't be getting up anytime soon.
Yeah, and
Good.
like Maeve as well, because we established Maeve is kind of very prim and proper about things and enjoys cleanliness, from the state of dress and everything. You're currently stood in this really dirty ruin, surrounded by bodily fluids and blood, from a childbirth and then an injured witcher.
And I just look flawless.
Yes, stunning as always is Maeve. And even the other elves, the Scoia'tael, also trust you and defer to you. Darren, since he came back from this fight, has been with Agley. Agley is now, tending to the child. Darren turns to you and says, "Truly, we are grateful."
It was no problem. We're just glad
That's what I do.
Rhiannon just kind of waves like,
Just from the ground, thumbs up.
And he says, "Please don't take this the wrong way, Dwayne, but we could use your help again."
For what?
All right.
You said we couldn't stay here anymore, that the village of Brenna wasn't happy with us being here. We agree. We don't want to kill any more humans, at least not ones who are innocent. We would prefer it very much if you were to go ahead with one of our scouts and find us a place that perhaps we could call home for a while.
I mean,
all right.
As soon as I can walk again, that should be no problem.
And he says, "Of course, but I know we haven't much in the way of goods to offer you, but please take this." And he hands you his own bow and set of arrows. So he will hand them to, place them next to you, Rhiannon. So that is a war bow and 10 bodkin arrows.
Ooh.
That you get from him. And bodkin arrows are pretty much like a staple in the Scoia'tael. They are very deadly. Yeah, they pierce armor, they pierce flesh, and they are intended to get stuck in the body. You saw the damage that they'd done to those few innocent villagers who had ended up dead.
Rhiannon looks at the bow and she just kind of nods to the elf, and then she looks at Catherine and she's like, I think you're gonna be better with that one than I am. Archery isn't really my strong suit. So
I mean,
could
I hunted with a bow every
See?
once in a while.
yeah. And I saw you use your bow against those. Was it neckers or ghouls that we like fought?
It was ghouls that
Ghouls,
you
yeah.
fought.
Rules, I
Yeah.
believe.
It was like I saw you use that bow against those ghouls. You're gonna do all right with it, and yeah, consider that a thank you for bringing me back, basically.
Well, I mean, you saved me before.
Oh,
You know, that
It's-
whole curse business.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a thing companions do for each other. She says with not a insignificant amount of irony in her voice, because she didn't even want to have any companions, but she does now. So, oh well.
Mm-hmm.
She's stuck with it now.
Yeah, and the kitten.
Rhiannon's that one vine where it's like, I don't need friends, they disappoint me.
Also, now that she made the tea, Catherine will help up Rhiannon, and it's like,
Mhm.
this is for the pain.
Yeah.
I know
Um,
you lot witches, you heal quicker and everything, but as far as I know, you still feel pain. Even though you might be more used to it.
Rhiannon she doesn't even like say anything to that. She just kind of scoffs and reaches for the tea.
and as this is happening, Darren goes over to the door. He mentioned a scout he would send with you. And he leans out and shouts, Frostbow. And Sophia, your character arrives.
Yes. You see a um, middling height elf stepping forward, kind of looking kind of out of breath, as if they've been like on a scouting mission or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they have short, dirty blonde hair, and is dressed in leather and green textiles and some vines with leaves, like this choker. And they're carrying a big longbow on their back.
Mhm.
And they say, "What?"
And Darren gestures to this half collapsed witcher, a kind of peeved looking sorceress who looks kind of like disgusted to be stood amongst all this filth, and Catherine, who is a doctor who currently has like blood and stuff down her apron, and he says, you'll be going with the witcher here.
The Vatican? Why?
We can't stay here anymore, Frostbow. That's the short and simple of it.
I understand you're right, of course. But you want me to go over where you sent me before?
He kind of gives a dismissive shrug and he says, wherever's safest.
All right. When do we need to go?
As soon as possible.
They nod.
Okay.
And I look down at Rhiannon like, so not today?
Yeah.
Catherine just shakes her head.
Rhiannon looks down at her. It's just like, give me like 5 more minutes.
Okay.
She kind of they kind of chuckle at that. Yeah.
Catherine says, in my professional opinion, 5 more days, but
Rhiannon is
I
actually
know
like
time is of the essence. We should at least wait until tomorrow.
Rhiannon actually like at Catherine saying that she's like in 5 days.
Okay. So the plan then is to stay overnight, right? At least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Darren says, okay, you have to be gone at first light. Best to get everything moving. And is there like anything you want to do before you go to sleep, or are you just pretty much?
Catherine says we should probably get back to the village and tell them that the situation in the woods is resolved. And
Collect our stuff from there.
yeah, we still have some stuff at the inn.
Yeah.
I can stay the night here just in case there's anything with a baby. I can do that. Do check up on her. I do not know so much about elven babies, but
Yeah.
you're not too different.
Yeah. Rhiannon's just like, don't you dare forget my horse.
Maeve kind of gives a look and says, maybe I will, and walks out.
Wait, did you have the kitten with you as well, or is it also still at the inn?
That's a good question.
I think you left it with the horse.
I
You
think
left it with the horse last.
You left
I
it.
think-
I think you left it with a horse and said, "Watch over my horse" or something like that.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
something like that.
the cat is hanging out in the saddlebags with some like cat food and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Sad
Maeve will
black
go.
cat.
Yeah. So Brenna's not too far a walk back. It's about, an hour navigating the kind of rocky terrain of this like woodland. And you get back to Brenna, it's still, very much like as you left it, this very quiet little village, pretty much in the middle of nowhere that just happened to be next to a field that then became a battlefield. And you go to the inn, which was called the Lilies. The Temerian is kind of crossed out because the Nilfgaardians won this battle, which means
Mhm.
they can no longer have Temerian in their name anymore. And you find Rhiannon's horse. It has, oddly somehow managed to get out of the stable that it was in, but it's just kind of milling around, eating hay out of like one of the big piles a farmer has like made.
Also,
Um,
it's not on the roof.
Yeah, at least it's not
yeah,
on the
it's
roof.
yeah, it's not on the roof.
If it was,
and
Maeve would have just said, not worth my
and-
time.
and
walks back.
Rhiannon's cat is just kind of like sitting on the saddle by itself, like just kind of chilling while the horse is eating.
You haven't seen the cat yet, by the way. Like, you have seen something move in her like pockets, but you've never seen the cat.
Yeah. So you can describe the cat, like what it looks like, if you want to, Nova.
The cat is
calico.
I somehow imagine that the cat is
Funny.
easily mistaken for a rat. Like it just
No,
this very scraggly.
Well, she's a kitten, so she looks a little scruffy by default because that's just how kittens look like. But she's almost pitch black with like bright yellow eyes, and she has a little white tuft on her chest, which, if you had the imagination of a witcher, would almost look like a griffin claw. Like a symbol of a griffin claw, and like that's and that's on her chest, and she's just kind of when you approach, she just kind of looks at you like meh, and just sits there, oddly calm and collected for a little kitten.
They just kind of Well, and she'll grab the horse's reins and start kind of like, come on, we're getting you back to Rhiannon.
The
Okay.
cat when
And starts pulling
Don't
away.
forget to inform the village.
And it's
She is.
because
She is. She's
Okay.
gonna tie it off at the inn and then go into the inn.
Okay.
as you you take the reins and begin leading Rhiannon's horse, and you walk past one of the windows at this tavern, that the door opens, and you see the alderman Dag appear, and he looks very eager, to kind of speak to you, and he's like, "Oh, you're back. What happened?
The problem's taken care of.
Was it a monster? What kind of foul beast was it?"
Nilfgaardian.
Maeve
You're not
cannot
there.
say that.
I'm about to say, you aren't there, Saffi. Shush.
I mean, that also would apply. Maeve 100% would say that.
Yeah, he's like,
Trying to think. Because I'm not as creative as Maeve is in this kind of bullshittery.
I mean, you could literally make a name up and they would probably buy it because there's so many different kinds of monsters. And these are just like, they're not like, you're not talking to other mages or like a witch or something. You're talking
That's
to,
true. I mean, it's gonna be
to
bullshit
the
no
alderman
matter
of a
what.
village. And then,
Mhm.
But yeah, let me see. Where's my bullshit skill?
it would be
It's an
Deceit.
eagle
deceit,
teddy,
Yeah, and empathy.
a graffle snark.
a bandersnatch.
That's a 10.
A xenomorph.
19, 29, 20, 30, 31, 32 would be for her
yeah.
line.
I mean,
She-
even with his human perception skill, no, he doesn't see that you're lying.
I'm shocked that he didn't see that she's lying. Also, I think actually I say that, and I think it'd be even higher than that because Maeve has her glamour on too.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Which, yeah, so she'd probably just make up a name of some monster that she knows exists. I'm just not smart.
Something, let me just go through my list in my head. I mean, it's woodland. You could kind of pass off the arrows as looking like little spikes or maybe, little
Mhm.
prongs. So maybe you could say an arakar.
Yeah.
They're native to the area as well. Can you see that perhaps I've put too many hours into The Witcher?
Not at all.
Um,
What?
Not enough hours.
But
Not enough.
yeah, you can say it's an arakar,
Yeah.
and Dag will like nod and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, there have been arakar here before, a nest of them before, and he says, was it a nest, or was it just a few wee stragglers?
It was a nest. We took care of the nest though.
And he nods and says, well, thank you, and your Witcher, I'm assuming they're cleaning up the nest.
Making sure there were no stragglers.
Right. And he takes from his belt a leather pouch of coins. I believe he gave you 100 crowns already up front, I believe. Yeah, so
I
he
believe
gives
so.
you 100 crowns. And he says, the rest of your payment. Thank
Much
you for
appreciated.
everything. No, much appreciated from us. And he nods and says, I'll go and tell everyone the good news. We can hunt again. And he goes, straight into the lilies. You hear his raised voice, saying, the witches killed this awful monster, and you hear like people cheering, slamming tankards on, tables.
Rousing thing of toss a coin to your Witcher starts going
Yes,
off.
a very rousing round of toss a coin to your Witcher. Yeah.
Probably
Rhiannon,
very drunk.
Rhiannon,
very
Rhiannon feels a disturbance in the force and is suddenly very glad that she has broken ribs.
Okay.
And yeah, then after that, she'll head back.
Yeah.
Make sure that she's collected all of everyone's stuff if there was any stuff left behind here.
Yeah.
Whenever-
yeah, like
Whenever the cat is traveling with the horse, the cat sits on top of the horse's head.
Yes,
Okay.
I was exactly
Um,
picturing that.
So I'll say, you
Maeve,
you
I have a
guys- you left-
question.
You left
Sup?
your things just with the Witcher's horse. I mean, it's safe because, like, pouches
witcher's
and stuff
horse.
on the saddle and things. And witches' horses actually don't spook very easily. They're trained not to spook or to run. They're actually kind of quite vicious if we're going by book rules, because Roach is an absolute badass who is more competent than Geralt 90% of the time.
I mean,
Like,
let's be honest.
this is an we appreciate Roach stream, okay? Like, but yeah, she, you know, the horse, like, you know, it's possibly, yeah, like you said, the safest place to leave your things. So you begin
Catherine
leading this horse back.
probably left them some things in her room. Among them, probably like on the windowsill or something like that, some toys that she crafted from like natural materials. What would Maeve do with those if she sees them?
Probably just toss them in with all of Catherine's other stuff. Like, just, okay. Collection, cool.
Yeah.
Maeve's not judging.
Maeve
Yeah.
makes toys for children.
You mean Catherine makes toys for children?
Catherine, yeah,
Maeve,
sorry.
Maeve makes
Character.
fire for
Maeve.
children.
Yes.
No, not fire. That's
Maeve is a bad influence on children.
very.
Maeve makes orphans of children.
No, she hasn't yet.
Rhiannon
I
eats
mean, we
children.
don't know if any of those soldiers
Yeah.
had kids.
True. So you know, you lead the horse back another hour. So it's been 2 hours for Katrine and Rhiannon and Saffi, but you know, you eventually see Maeve, you know, leading this horse along with a cat on its head, oddly enough. And yeah, so Rhiannon, I'm guessing you're still like in that sort of covered area, resting.
What's the how often can Katrine do the healing hands thing for me to use my recovery to like get hit points back? Is that like once per day or?
I believe it's
if,
once or twice
I just
per day.
I
me a
just
second.
remembered. So I think once the healing hands has applied, your recovery roll, like where your recovery applies every day, and I can also like make a area, basically make a healing tent area, which I think I even said I did when I prepared the whole place to make like a sterilized area as best as possible. And that also boosts the healing by something.
Yeah.
Boosted healing would be great because just baseline, I'm now back to 9 HP.
Yeah.
After a night.
I mean, you can also take a dose of swallow as well.
I
think you've
actually
got
don't
swallow
have
potion.
swallow. I don't have the
okay.
formula for that.
That's fair.
Don't have your
right.
pesto?
Okay.
I have
Not that
pesto, but
kind of
not that
pesto.
one.
But yeah.
Not that flavor.
Yeah, I'll probably
+2
bringing
healing
that up in the
grade.
game at
Plus
some
2.
point.
Okay, great. 11 HP. Yay.
Hey.
Yeah, so you know, you think that you should be almost at your A game by tomorrow, Rhiannon.
Yeah.
So
It still hurts, but I can walk, and
Yeah.
I can more importantly, I can ride. So that shouldn't be a problem.
in the time that Maeve has been gone, Rhiannon, Saffi, and Katrine, is there anything you want to do at all? It's okay if not. Like, you know, if Saffi just wants to go and quickly prepare for scouting or.
I'm just gonna ask the camp for like ritual materials for hydromancy and seance, and make sure that I have some of those bobkin arrows for my bow.
Yeah. I'll say that, you know, you also get 10 bodkin arrows as well.
Nice.
Just because I made that a staple actually when I wrote up the adventure for, you know, when I went to get a
sense to have
job.
them anyways.
Yeah, it makes sense to have them.
Catherine would ask someone basically to show her the way more powerful warbow that she now has, compared to the short bow that is more like for hunting, rabbits or whatever.
Yeah. Sure thing. Yeah.
She's just familiarizing herself with that.
God.
I mean, there would be, you know, a couple of Scoia'tael elves that you could ask as well, who are happy to, you know, show you how to adjust for a bodkin arrow because it's slightly heavier than a normal arrow is.
Yeah.
And how to.
You can see Saffi just eyeing that bow like, I wanted that, but if you want some help,
The
maybe.
bow is like very 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 typically Scoia'tael, the kind of wood is made out of yew wood. It's very bendy, very flexible. The horsehair drawstring on it as well, and the grip on it is made from it has like a layer of like deer skin over it, so it's very soft and comfortable to hold. And hanging from like the bottom of it are a collection of squirrel tails, which is
Oh.
where the Scoia'tael gets their name, because Scoia'tael translates to squirrels in Elder speech. So yeah, you've got this very Scoia'tael looking bow. Yeah, so it looks pretty
Oh.
cool. So yeah, no wonder Saffi's like eyeing it up with a bit of jealousy. But yeah, is that
It's the
everything? you
dog
want
that
to
someone
do?
dropped food in front of.
Is there anything you want to do just before we cut to the next day?
Well,
Um,
when Maeve returns, she would give actually one of the toys to Arle.
Agley, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like for the little one. It's like a basically like a vaguely like a teddy bear doll, you could say.
Mhm.
Only
Yeah, like
it's
a
not a
doll.
bear, and instead it's a little rat.
Okay, yeah. She greatly appreciates it. I mean, toys are, a luxury, really, in the Witcher universe. And usually when children do have toys, especially poor children or children who are nomadic, like the Scoia'tael, they tend to be very, very practical, very like carved out of one material. So it's very nice, a luxury to have this item.
Oh wait,
And
I'm making one better. Because like a rat
okay,
and a squirrel are not that far from each other. She's just adding like a more bushy tail to
okay,
it.
okay, yeah.
aw.
Okay, you make it a squirrel. It's
Yeah.
very, very appreciated. And uh, yeah. So we'll cut to next day.
Rhiannon also has stuff to
If
do.
you want. Okay, Rhiannon then.
aside
Yeah.
aside from just like resting, she's gonna take some time and make some Witcher potions because she actually hadn't had the time yet to make any. And
Yeah.
those would have been very
I
handy in the
believe
fight that she just lost.
witches have alchemy kits, right?
Yes, I have one.
So you have like a little alchemy pouch, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have all the
So
components and stuff, and I'm gonna make 3 things. I'm gonna make a dose
Okay.
of white honey, a dose of beast
Mhm.
oil, and a dose of my grave hag concoction, which have
okay.
DCs of 16, 14, and 16.
Awesome.
So
Thanks.
I'm gonna
You keep a note of that as well, just to remind me, because I will forget, because brain like a sieve.
So I'm gonna roll
But
like 3 different,
yeah.
like 3 separate rolls for those, I guess.
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay. So the first one, I can just roll 3 dice. Okay, let's see. Those were the wrong dice.
You can pick up a d20.
No, I picked the percentile dice.
Oh, the
Yeah, instead of
tens column one.
D10s.
Mhm.
Also, Nova,
Okay.
did you see that you get an extra 3 HP?
I did see that. Like 3 instead of
Okay.
2, or 3 in addition to the 2?
No, 3 and 2, so 5 total from me patching you
Nice.
up.
So that puts me to 14. Okay. So first roll is a craft is 8 plus 5 is 13 plus 4 is 17. So that's 1 potion done. Then one is 16 and one is 14. So that's
I think that's
just
all of them
perfect.
passed, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Exactly
Yeah. So
passed.
you make all of these. One of the elves comes in. As evening starts to draw close, it sets up a campfire inside these ruins. I mean, the top of the ruins is practically missing anyway, so it's a ventilated area anyway, and you can make your Witcher potions over that fire. Because a lot of it requires boiling things down and heating things up to specific temperatures and all of that. So yeah,
She's
you end up making something. a really nasty kind of smell in the air, but for you it's beneficial because now you have really cool potions that you can use.
It's
Meanwhile, Maeve sets up her nice big tent.
yeah, it's very it's very interesting to watch her do that because she's very she hyper focuses on her alchemy shit. So you wouldn't notice her having broken ribs while she does that because she's so methodical and precise in doing all these minute little things with her alchemy kit. And she just for once she doesn't have like a furrow in her brow. She's just like she's just content doing something she enjoys there.
I mean, it's a side of witches that people tend to not see. It's a very private part of witches. So, you see this kind of very methodical, doing essentially mathematics and chemistry to create these potions. And, like to do this from memory because witches very much covet their potions, their ingredients, and how they're made. It's all pretty much like written down, but then like the witches are like expected to remember this and then go and learn and continue spreading it word by mouth to other witches. So we'll cut to the next day. It's relatively peaceful overnight. No real disturbances. The Scoia'tael, the remaining few elves, Saffi and Agley not included because you both need rest, especially Saffi because you're going out scouting the next day, and Agley because she just gave birth to a whole child, and that's a tiring thing. So like the rest of the Scoia'tael are all on pretty much on watch for the night. They've delegated themselves into groups and are watching, keeping watch through the forest. And as first light comes, Daerin comes in just so that Agley isn't woken, gently wakes Katrine, Rhiannon, Maeve, and Saffi up, letting you know it's first light. You guys need to move out. And it's a very chill kind of like spring morning. There's frost on the ground still. It's cold. The fire hasn't died out exactly, like it's been stoked and stuff by and kept up by the other elves as they've changed shifts, but it's still like you can feel the cold. And Agley, fortunately, has been kind of swaddled in like the rest of like the camp's remaining blankets, so she's completely warm, as is her child.
Aw.
Maeve switches from her normal outfit to her cold weather outfit.
Which is just like like this really regal looking fur coat
Yep.
with like a big
it's
with a
it's
big
a
like
pimp
puffy
jacket.
oh yeah.
I think I've shared a picture, but I'll share it into the group chat again.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. So yes, first light. I'm assuming you guys will have packed up most of your things, the night
yeah.
before, so that
Yeah.
it's a quick
Oh yeah.
go. Rhiannon, it's cold. You've got broken ribs still. Like you can feel that they've definitely healed somewhat. Like the bones have begun to fuse together already with your accelerated healing, but it's still painful to move and it's very stiff considering it's a cold morning. And it takes you a few attempts, but you're able to get up onto your horse. And the rest of you, you now have to set off now onto this task to go scouting for a place for the Scoia'tael to move to. Just Saffi, you'll know this, that the Scoia'tael are a nomadic people, so you're just looking for somewhere that maybe they could stay for like a couple of weeks, just like while spring warms up enough that traveling is easy with a small child, well, a newly born child. And so you're only looking somewhere that's just convenient and safe enough for a short while before you can then move on and perhaps rejoin Broccolon Forest and a couple of the nomadic tribes there. And as Rhiannon, you get up on your horse, and Maeve has packed up her tent.
Her tent and got her face on and her glamour
yeah.
on.
Maeve comes stepping out of this tent at like first dawn. Everybody else looks really like sleep drunk, and then there's just Maeve who looks flawless, like hair perfectly in place. These beautiful high heels and beautiful outfit on. She's like ready to go. And it's that kind of thing where like she's almost so pretty it's insulting to you.
I just imagine like Catherine, like she doesn't really have a bad head because like she has like really
No hair.
short sheared hair, and but like just stomping around in her boots and just looking at Maeve like, how is she walking around on the forest with those?
Rhiannon doesn't even look at May. She's like, ugh, sorceresses.
Yeah.
So the first thing she does, like, Rhiannon doesn't really look much different from usual, aside from the fact that her eye, like the bags under her eyes are a little bit darker than usual. And the first thing she does when she gets on her horse and like nobody's looking, she kind of like takes the cat who was sleeping in the saddlebag overnight, and like kind of like holds it up, and the kitten hisses at her, and she like hisses back and then puts it in her pocket in her shirt. And
just to clarify for anyone in chat who isn't knowledgeable on Witcher lore, cats hate witches. Like cats are terrified of witches because witches are very supernatural. They have a lot of mutations and things and magic in them, and that terrifies cats. Cats are very sensitive to it. Dogs are somewhat sensitive, but not as much as cats.
Cats just know.
Yeah.
So we
They're
hiss.
mobile Witcher amulets.
Oh wait, so that probably also means that cats don't like Catherine.
To an extent.
What about
the whole
Maeve,
curse
'cause
thing?
Maeve is also magic.
But yeah, Rhiannon, you hiss at this cat, you put it back in a pocket.
we hiss each other. She puts it in her pocket, like on her chest. And whenever it's like not like whenever nobody talks or whatever, people might be able to hear just the faintest of purring coming from her chest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because cats do that thing where like when they're hurt or when their family member is hurt, they purr to heal, essentially.
Send good vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kitten does that, even though she doesn't.
Sophia's dying.
Yeah, it's like rueful purring, like doesn't want to but does anyway because like it cares for Rhiannon on some level. Of like, this Witcher is the only person who feeds me and looks after me, so I guess I'll purr, kind of thing. Yeah, so you guys get up on your horse, you've got everything packed up, and Dairin approaches you, Rhiannon, just before you're all about to leave, and says, Vatican, a word, please.
She looks down and she's like, sure thing. And then she looks.
He doesn't expect you to get off the horse. He just, wants a word with you. And he says, Agle and I, we have been talking about the name for our bairn, our child.
Okay.
We hoped you would do us the honor of letting us name her after you. As thanks.
She goes to say something.
This like, kind of concern.
Yeah, she's like.
He sees. Yeah. He sees this kind of concern, and he says, "Understand this. We're not trying to like give you lore surprise. I know you witches detest that, but
it's fine. It's fine. I don't own this name, so you can name your child whatever you like. And if that happens to be my name, then I guess I'll have to deal with that."
And he thanks you and gives you a kind of like one-armed kind of like salute, which Saffi to be like a Scoia'tael kind of mark of respect. So it means a lot that a Scoia'tael elf would do this to anyone who is not a Scoia'tael elf. And the other Scoia'tael, at realizing Dairin does this, also all pull that kind of mark of respect.
would it be frowned upon if she does that as well? Because she had run-ins with the Scoia'tael before, so she would probably know. Like, is that a thing that she would do
Yeah, you
back,
could-
or is
You
that?
could definitely do it back. It's not like a bad indicator for you to do it to another Scoia'tael. It's if you then went and did it to someone who wasn't Scoia'tael that they would take issue. So it's like it's a kind of like a great, you know, pride of honor that they would defer to you like this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. In that case, she'll do it back, just kind of like with her left hand, just nod at him as like, yeah, okay, sure, fine.
And you all begin to leave camp, and that's where we'll leave it for just now. We'll take a break, rehydrate, take tablets, make sure everyone in the audience, you get your stretches in. You know, if you need to take your medication, make sure you take it, make sure you stretch out. And we'll be back in about 5, maybe 10 at the most minutes. So
Yeah.
we'll see you all then. Bye.
Bye.
Mentioning. Hello.
Okay, hi everyone. After our break, we are back with Silver and Steel, episode 5. We
Mhm.
just finished with the party meeting one of the Scoia'tael elves, a scout called Saffi, and Saffi has now joined the party to go and scout and find a safe place for this Scoia'tael band to move so that they can, hunt and live safely for a while before going and rejoining um, the rest of their people back at Broccolon. Um, so yeah, you set out, and it's very easy, to find this main road, this trade road that goes through the forest, and you reach out on the other side. You've left Brenna behind you, and you are now. I got a really itchy nose. 1 second. Ow. Um, but yeah, you have left Brenna behind you. You are now moving ahead again, further north. You are in the lands currently, to place you on the map, you're currently in the lands of Temeria. It's disputed whether or not you can call this Temeria at the moment. Some people are calling it Redania, some people are calling it Nilfgaard. A lot of the territory has been split, and the current king of Temeria is dead. So, there's a lot of problems here. And you are, currently going northward, past and leaving this battlefield behind, but you haven't exactly left, the kind of destruction and echoes of war completely behind. There are still, rotting corpses of not just soldiers, but of horses and pack mules, and even just elements of like the army having been here, broken spears, dropped broken arrows, uh, even like a couple pairs of like old soldiers' boots, just things left behind, clearly in like, moving and stuff. And the for the most part, you're in complete coverage of trees. Um, every now and then on like the left hand side of the road, it opens up. You see, kind of fields where people, peasants are working, farmers are currently working, and you continue on into this woodland. It becomes more dense for a while. And it takes you a good half of the day, to get through this woodland. And out into where you currently are at is around near the footholds of the Cragros Mountains, coming up on the east side. So on your to the right hand side, basically, of you in the distance, you can see this very faint outline of the Cragros Mountains, which is where Mahakam is, the home of the dwarves. And uh, you have, it eventually becomes kind of land that is very rocky terrain, very unstable. At one point, Rhiannon, you're having to get off your horse instead to lead it along rather than riding it, just because of the displacement of weight. And as you continue on, you can make me a let me see. You can all make me an awareness check.
Will do.
Awareness is
Intelligence plus
Intelligence.
your awareness.
Yes, this is intelligence, yeah,
okay.
plus your awareness skill.
18.
16.
18.
21.
Okay. Yeah, you all did pretty damn well.
I have a 0.
You notice ahead that there is a kind of rising ahead, kind of so the road goes up in like a hill, and then down. So somewhere below this rise, there is a plume of thick black smoke kind of rising up into the air.
It's gonna be.
And it looks like it's not too far away, probably like another hour's ride. You could probably get a bit of a better view at the top of this rise.
Can I use my heightened sense of smell to discern what kind of fire that is? Like, is it wood or is it like burning flesh, stuff like
Sure
that?
thing. Is there what roll would you need to make for that? Or is it you can
It's just,
use
I guess
Witcher
it's just,
senses?
I guess it would just be awareness again.
Sure thing, because you also have Witcher senses. I just didn't know if you had to roll for that.
Yeah, let me see if my scent tracking does anything different.
I don't think so. I think it's just on your awareness. You already rolled a 21 on your awareness anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'll say,
just...
using your Witcher senses and that roll, that you can smell the scent of burning wood, burning herbs, but these herbs and have kind of been used to mask the smell of what it really is, which is the scent of burning flesh. Human flesh, specifically.
Okay.
Something you're very familiar with. It shouldn't, the average humanoid, so Maeve and Kathleen and Saffi can't smell it this far out, but you can.
Yeah. Yeah, Rhiannon kind of like scrounges up her nose like, that stinks. And she's like, she alerts her companions like, that smoke is either a burial or a battlefield. So we should exercise caution.
Sounds good.
Well, from up there, we should have a better look what is happening down there, right?
Yeah.
It would be good to know what's going on and to make
Not be
sure that we have
surprised.
our distance.
Okay. So up at the top of this rise that you will move to, there is very clearly a very big blaze, but it looks contained. So it seems to be some kind of like either farm kind of, residue, things like that, manure and stuff gets burned usually, or it could be, like you said, like you have smelled human flesh. Rhiannon, is more likely than not, it seems to be a pyre of some sort or a pit.
So that, yeah, that suggests burial, but it could also be burial after a battle. So,
yeah,
still not a fan.
Or something worse.
Well, a lot of dead bodies are. Could be that they're trying to prevent disease from spreading.
Or ghouls from showing up.
Or that.
So you can either carry on going down this rise, like going back down it and follow the path towards this pyre, or there is like kind of woodland around this area. There are even a few houses, but to you, Rhiannon, with your eyesight, they appear abandoned. You can see the doors are kind of like ajar. Some of the ceiling and some of them has caved in. With your fine eyesight, you can notice that. So, you have plenty of cover if you need to, kind of approach from a different angle rather than head on.
Yeah, Rhiannon would definitely want to get closer just to examine the scene and like see what's going on. And she's not taking like any more precaution than usual just because she has some broken ribs or whatever. Like, who cares? So
The doctor does.
She would.
It's just Katrine having a nervous breakdown.
I imagine like Rhiannon just like galloping down the hill on the horse and kind of just.
No, she would stay on the horse just like normally, like trot down, and as soon as they get close, get off the horse and lead it on to be more on the quiet side.
Okay. So I'll say for now, like you're halfway kind of there. You won't need to make a stealth check at this point if you don't want to.
I'd like to.
But okay, you can make a stealth check then, which is, I believe, dexterity plus stealth, and a D10 roll.
17.
Hmm.
Yeah, Saffi, your face is kind of painted in the way the Scoia'tael do, with different grays, blues, greens. And 1 minute for you guys, Saffi is there. The next, she's gone. Like, they're gone, sorry. Like, like kind of faded straight into the foliage. Especially with the whole like outfit designed for them to blend in. And yeah, the rest of you, you approach slowly, steadily, bit by bit. And these houses, these abandoned houses, are now pretty much within a few feet of you. And this burning blaze is pretty much, you see now, it is contained. So like there is some kind of like wooden construct in the very ground it's in, but the rest of the ground has kind of like been completely destroyed. It's kind of swamped down with rainwater, and it's there's a redness to it that kind of implies blood. You can make me another awareness check if you want to. If you're looking around.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think
Of course.
Hmm.
16.
19.
26.
Nice.
Exploding dice are
17.
fun.
okay.
It's 17 for me.
Okay, so Saffi and Maeve. Saffi, from where you are in like the woodlands, kind of sneaking through that way, you notice that these houses, one that's very close to you, like kind of backing onto this woodland area, has been abandoned for quite a long time, like a good few months. Like nobody's been here in very long. And both you and Maeve notice the kind of telltale signs that this was perhaps at one point a kind of camp for soldiers. You can still see the kind of nails that drove in for tents. There are a couple of horseshoes that never got shoed onto any horses, but had just kind of been left. There is, very hastily covered like old latrines, things like that. There's clearly been soldiers through this area. And Rhiannon and Katrine, you notice that these houses have some damage to them that don't look like they were made by soldiers. Perhaps an animal of some kind. There are claw marks in the wood, kind of teeth marks as well, where like something's gnawed on like logs and things like that. The windows have been smashed in. And this fire has clearly been burning for a very long time. Rhiannon, now that you're close enough to it, you can see that there's like peat, kind of tar, that has been put into this blaze. So clearly it's been burning for quite some time, probably a good few days, which makes sense to you considering the battle on that battlefield up by Brenna happened a few days ago. Like, so you can imagine that perhaps that this was like some kind of camp beyond, like behind the front lines, filled up, with extra soldiers, reinforcements, cavalry, that kind of thing. And using peat and tar to burn loads of dead bodies is typically a thing the army does. Um, you know, and you can guess from the fact that they're on this side and still owned Temerian lands that perhaps this was Temerian soldiers or a faction of the Temerian army.
You said there's some like damage to the houses and stuff that doesn't look like it's man-made. Can I use my like Witcher knowledge, my Witcher training, to deduct what kind of
you can
creature
use
that
deduction.
would have been?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. This is okay. 10.
I also inspect the claw marks.
13, 18.
I think you can also make a deduction check if you want.
28.
I think it's deduction or education.
Deduction.
For me, yeah,
Because,
for me it's
did do
Witcher
same.
training.
Damn, these rolls.
Can I make a deduction thing too, but looking specifically at the pyre?
Yeah, sure thing.
29.
Jesus. Yeah,
Another
Maeve's also
exploding
curious about
roll.
the fire too, because it's kind of her brand.
Okay.
My
So
brand.
Rhiannon and Catherine looking at these, claw marks and teeth marks. A second, let me check. What do you get? There seem to be a pack of creatures. You're not entirely sure exactly what. There is a pack of them, at least 6 of them, and perhaps maybe a few more. But they have clearly been scavenging. These could be wolves, they could be wild dogs, plenty of those around, or, which is also just as likely, necrophages. But dead bodies doesn't, in your experience, Rhiannon, that dead bodies doesn't always necessarily mean necrophages. Especially now, you've got wild dogs and things to contend with. The war has kind of thrown a lot of things
Yeah.
out of balance that way.
I do have a bonus to my Witcher training when it comes to insectoids, relics, and ogroids. So I would probably I would probably recognize the kind of signs they make. So is it one of those?
No, it's none of those. You can from the fact that you know so much about those specifically, that you can be like, okay, it's not them. You can clear that out of the kind of picture possibility.
So just by judging by the size of the claw and bite marks, how big are whatever this did roughly?
Probably about the span of they vary. Some are about the span of a human hand or a humanoid hand, like a full adult grown one. Others are about the size of a child's hand or maybe a paw. You're not entirely sure. And Maeve and Saffi were looking at the fire. So
I got a 13.
And I got a 25.
okay, so with the 13, Saffi, you aren't entirely versed in the way that humans deal with their dead. You don't have to really deal with their dead. You just kind of dispose of their dead wherever and let the humans deal with it, kind of thing. Because the Scoia'tael have their own burial practice rites. They don't need to learn human ones.
Yeah,
they have
specifically
they have
looking
very
if
specific.
if there is a body burning, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking specifically if the body was tied to a log in the middle.
Right. Okay. No. They are a mass of bodies. And that then they haven't been processed by your people's burial rites, so you can rule out that it was any elven kind of faction. There are none of the kind of oils or anything that has been used in it, and you certainly wouldn't heap loads of dead bodies just carelessly on top of one another to do this, even in times of war like you're currently in. The Scoia'tael are very specific about each body is placed side by side, specifically in mass kind of burnings, and there's a whole rite that has to go on. In fact, if there were Scoia'tael or elves that had done this, they would still be here to keep an eye on the bodies and make sure no scavengers came after them. Maeve, you recognize that these have been burnt with the rites of the Church of the Eternal Fire, which is very implicatory of humans. So that these must have been humans. This must have been a human faction of the army, the Temerian army in specifics, and they have been burned. You can kind of smell that kind of oily smell of vestment oil and incense to cover up the scent of rotting flesh, which is kind of as far as the Church of Eternal Fire goes in terms of stopping necrophages from eating people. And yeah, they bodies of soldiers that have kind of just been carelessly thrown on top of each other. Clearly, it was a quick job, move on.
Yeah.
And that makes
they would
sense,
do
you know,
that.
considering the Temerian soldiers just recently lost, along with the Redanians, that it would make sense that they would just quickly throw away their dead, burn them, and leave
Mhm.
as soon as possible. Yeah. And is there anything else you guys want to look at? Because I know Rhiannon and Catherine haven't looked like the fire pit. You've been more interested in the houses.
Well, Rhiannon is kind of like leaves the fire up to the other two, because even if she doesn't trust sorcerers, she trusts in their expertise with shit, especially since Saffi is there too. So she's like, yeah, they got that covered. And once she made sure that whatever like did all this damage here is not in the immediate vicinity, she is just kind of like ready to move on, pretty much. She would
Are there any?
probably use her like her tracking skills just to see if there are tracks in the immediate vicinity, to see where they went, the monsters and the people, and just like to roughly judge how long it's been since they've been here.
Okay. You can make me what
Wilderness
role was it?
survival would
Wilderness
definitely.
survival. Yeah. I was just making sure you hadn't got a Witcher thing on top of that. But yeah,
Well,
wilderness survival.
I guess I could use my Witcher training for the monsters, but it's basically wilderness survival. Okay, that is a 7, 9, 19.
Okay, yeah. Here you inspect around this pit and like the houses, specifically this time, you know, focusing on the ground. And the boot prints of, you know, many soldiers and the hoof prints of horses and other pack animals are just faintly kind of clear in the dirt and the mud, which, you know, adds up with the whole them having lost a battle 2 days ago. Clearly they would have cleared out. So they faded enough for it to have been a couple of days at most. But there are fresh kind of tracks in this kind of swamped area around the sunken in ground where the pit's burning. And it's the kind of almost like they almost look humanoid, these footprints, but not quite. And they have like a very long kind of staggering gait to them.
And how recent
Is
were
there?
those?
About a few hours ago.
Okay, that's not.
And there were probably at most 8 of these humanoid creatures, things. So you can now rule out, you know, wild dogs or wolves.
Is there any blood or anything like that inside of the houses or around the houses?
No, there isn't any like in or around the houses. It's pretty much all like around this kind of fire pit, which, you know, makes sense if there's dead bodies. But, you know, upon closer inspection, Rhiannon, with you being at the fire pit, and Maeve and Saffi also notice that a lot of these soldiers don't have a lot of limbs left. That's very like, you know, losing a limb or an amputation, things like that. That's very common in war, but this is like an excessive amount. Something has happened to these bodies.
Okay, I would definitely consult my mental encyclopedia of monsters to see what kind of creature that would fit to, because now I have like several kind of clues to that, like the tracks, the
Sure.
claw marks, the bodies. So
You can make me a monster lore check.
Witcher training. Nice. 10, 18, 28, 33.
Yeah, damn. Yeah.
Nice.
You know exactly what this is. Your mind immediately goes to must be a necrophage of some sort. You know, consuming parts of these bodies. Necrophages don't tend to eat the whole body; they take it bit by bit, then leave for a while, and then come back and finish off bits and pieces. And they do travel typically in packs, 6 to 8, sometimes more, depending on the amount of dead and fresh food essentially available nearby.
Mhm.
And the staggering gait of like the way these creatures have walked. Specifically, there is one type of necrophage that does this, and these are rot fiends. Um,
Oh,
and
great.
typically, humans and peasants, in the villages, not entirely sure what they are truly. Consider them to be like reanimated corpses of their loved ones that come and like try and eat the living, but they're not. They're kind of, uh, they are just they look very similar to decomposing bodies. You understand why people think they're reanimated corpses a lot of the time. They just
Mhm.
look like like corpses, with their faces, however, aren't humanoid in any way. They're kind of like these big kind of gaping mouths and fleshy globules that hang from their necks. And when there's a lack of corpses, they will eat the living. They don't tend to eat the living very often because it's so much effort for them to go through and kill someone. It's so much easier to scavenge, dig up a fresh grave. So it makes sense that there is freshly cooked meat readily available. They're gonna have a party, Um, so and they have a nasty habit of kind of using they're kind of clever, unlike ghouls. Ghouls kind of will attack one by one, um, but rot fiends kind of attack in a pack. Like if they
Mhm.
are threatened in any way, they kind of go straight into like they'll try and overwhelm using numbers. And they also have a very, very, very nasty habit of when you're just about to kill them, they blow up. And it usually sets up a chain reaction of the other ones then blow up, causing horrendous damage to the Witcher who's unfortunate to fight one.
Mhm.
Oh no.
In fact, you fought a group before, and got a face full of stomach acid and rotting flesh
Mm.
for your
Yeah,
problems.
that's Riona's not happy about that. As soon as she
Mm.
figures that out, she's like, maybe we should move on. There
But
are.
you do know that they are very susceptible to fire,
Hmm.
and fire can stop the explosion before it happens.
That's good. So she's not worried, but she's like, I don't want to deal with that. So she's like, maybe we should move on soon. There are rot fiends about, and I really don't want to deal with them. So she
You
gets
say
back
that
up
out
on her
loud, you
horse.
said?
Hmm?
Did she say that out loud?
Yeah, she said that to the whole party.
Okay.
Like she's already
Okay.
like halfway
Then
up her
Saffi
horse again.
Then you hear a voice from the brush saying, "That's all right. I could just, shoot them from afar."
Just the talking brush.
Yeah,
Re-
like in a kid's stage performance, Saffi has been given the tree role.
as Rhiannon looks at the bush, and she's like, as much as I value the tactical expertise of a bush, there's no need to waste any ammo on them. We can just move on, circumvent them, and not have to deal with them.
Uh,
Also, why are you sitting in
I'm
the bush?
fine with that.
just
Last time we fought some things
Ghouls.
that came after corpses. I got slashed in the stomach. That wasn't fun.
Ghouls.
Ghouls.
Rot fiends are worse.
Rot
How are
fiends
they
are
even
like
worse?
they're like ghouls but clever.
Listen.
clever, really.
There's always
Clever guy.
something worse out there. Trust me.
There's always a bigger fish.
Like vampires?
Sarah's
Don't-
face.
Get out of here, Qui-Gon Jinn. Nobody asked you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not
So
on my arm.
yeah, you're not on my arm. You're not on my cast of characters. So you guys are circumnavigating this and leaving it behind, so to
Mhm.
speak, which absolutely valid.
Mm.
Yeah. You continue on like that, the very bare trail that's kind of left behind. In fact, the trail is kind of hard to find, like the main road that you were following, due to like the amount of soldiers that clearly moved through with their horses and things. It's kind of all been trampled down, and the grass is kind of pretty sparse, due to the movement of feet and such. It's all been trod down, but there is, you see a kind of like slip, trail that goes through the woodlands, and off to the right. And Saffi, for you especially, that would be very beneficial to, your, the Scoia'tael, to your people. It would be very beneficial. That's a kind of good place. Good coverage is usually there. You all wear this war paint and outfits anyway, that helps you camouflage better. So I kind of, um, foliage covering is usually pretty good for just a place to stay non-permanently for a while.
How far away was this from where the pyre was?
It's about, you've been continuing on for about 10 minutes at this point.
Okay, so the rot fiends are kind of close, maybe?
You aren't entirely sure. You didn't
Hmm.
see a nest. The Witcher didn't, say any suspicion of where they thought they might be. It can be kind of hard to tell, with rot fiends. Rot fiends have a nasty habit of, actually no, make me a monster lore check.
As long as
I won't just give you this free information. You have to earn it.
as long as my medallion doesn't vibrate, I'm not concerned.
Mhm.
So I have a 9 in intelligence and I got a 10 total, meaning I fumbled.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you're all right for that. You're trying to think about, rot fiends. They're not as common in the kind of like foliage underbrush areas and that where you've lived and moved before. But you are kind of wandering off the beaten path. This is not an area that your people typically travel in. You all have specific kind of routes and things that you follow, but with the betrayal from Captain Aelwyn and Aglae's sudden birth, you've been forced to have to make a diversion, and so you're not entirely sure. You have never really seen Rot Fiend before. You've heard about them, but in your mind, they kind of just look like ghouls that can walk on two legs rather than four. And you know that ghouls are pretty stupid. Like they act like dogs for the most part. They've got about the same intelligence as dogs. So you aren't entirely, sure how much worse a rot fiend could be. You've got this kind of idea that they must still be interested in the dead bodies. They wouldn't be interested in the living, as the Witcher said, because the living is too much work for them.
Fair. So, yeah, this would be a good place then. But I do want to check. So, would doing a seance be beneficial to just see if there's been any deaths in this area?
Looks at all the corpses.
I believe you would need the blood or something else from one of the deceased or
yeah.
relative.
Oh yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part about seance is too that it summons all nearby relatives. So
Yep.
using that spell or that ritual in a family crypt is inadvised.
Yeah.
because it will literally summon the entire
Oh,
bloodline.
Yeah.
there is a fun little side quest, well, main story quest in Hearts of Stone in The Witcher 3. That's like that, and boy howdy, it was not a fun time.
I'm looking forward to it.
I had to fight this guy's entire ghost family to get to the one ghost I needed, which was fun. But yeah, I mean, you could. I'll let you. What's it called?
Well, if I don't have the blood, I'll
Retcon it to
die.
say that you got the blood if you wanted to.
Nah.
But I mean, they were humans, so they're not super interesting to a Scoia'tael member.
Oh, I meant we're 10 minutes away from there, aren't we?
Yeah, you're about 10 minutes away from there.
Yeah, so I'm looking specifically for people here.
Here in this spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, you don't have blood of anyone, like
No.
you said, so but looking around, it doesn't seem too bad, and you can see that this slip trail kind of goes pretty far, like to the northeast. You're currently heading north, so like northeast is that way. So it kind of continues on in that direction, so at least you can see visually that it's not going to curve back around to that area. We'll call it the problem area. It's not going to
Yeah.
kind of curve back that way around. You can kind of see it curving just specifically away from it.
Yeah. Okay.
At the end of the day, it's up to Saffi.
Is there any role I could do to just see if there could possibly be a better area?
You can make a wilderness survival.
Is that also intelligence?
Yes.
I have +6. 19.
Yeah. You could continue on ahead, but you can see the further you go on, the kind of thinner out the forest, woodland gets. It's not a proper forest, it's just woodland, like dense woodland. And you also know that like the kind of thinner woodland is, the kind of closer you'll eventually be to humans, and the less protected you will be, not just in terms of like in coverage, but also as well is a lot of the time it's beneficial to have at least some monsters nearby, things like Arakar and things that your group knows how to deal with personally, because they can be busy guarding you from the humans, because the humans are too distracted by these horrible huge monsters in the forest to care that the Scoia'tael are there, or to know that the Scoia'tael are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Scoia'tael kind of have that relationship of like, some monsters are sometimes beneficial, so why kill them?
Yeah. So I just give a signal to the party to just stop for a minute then and say, I think I've found the spot for my people. I think I will be just make sure, just have a look around maybe, and then I think I'll be going back to them.
Sure
I
thing.
think that was my mission, Sarah.
Let's check
Yeah.
out the perimeter.
So as
then.
a scout, yeah, basically these three, the rest of the party have all been sent to like kind of protect you and help search.
Okay.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
And that's about
Because
it.
they've proven they can more than handle any Nilfgaardian soldiers or any other danger that they come across, which would be beneficial to you as a scout. You're
Like
less likely to
childbirth.
go out and die. So, yeah, you can go into the woodland if you want and make a. So you're specifically looking just for like a place. Specifically, you can set up camp and stuff. So I would say make an awareness check. You can each make one, actually.
Mhm.
You're all like kind of spread out a bit, keeping an eye on like different areas as you move along.
Yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
Catherine would also look like for some herbs and such you can use for like medicinal stuff.
Sure thing. In that case, make your awareness check a wilderness survival check. Katrine.
I rolled a crit. Do I roll again?
So you roll again, yeah.
Nice.
You roll your d10 again.
And I'm going to use my actual real dice. 4. So 23 total.
Nice.
Nice.
I
I
have
got
a
a
20.
17.
I have a 21.
Okay.
17 for me.
17.
Okay. So Catherine, you find some herbs for your healing pouch, medicine pouch, all that stuff, your alchemy stuff for being a doctor. Off screen we'll go through on the tables and roll for
Yep.
what you get. Just because it's a lot of rolling otherwise.
Yeah,
And as the rest of you are searching, Saffi in particular, you come across a really good spot. It's the path kind of leads away and down through a kind of winding network of trees, and the ground slopes down and round into a sort of like a dish kind of shape with a rise above it, and built into that rise or cut into that rise is like an opening of like an old cave. And it seems a good place for shelter. You have the cave, but you also have the kind of expanse of like land around it, and it's also shielded by these trees.
Yeah, that seems like the perfect spot. How big is the cave? Is it just an opening, or is
It's just an opening. You can't see how deep it goes in, but from like the darkness that's like pretty much in there, like it's pitch black, like you can tell it probably goes pretty deep.
I think.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
nothing bad will happen.
It's fine, guys. I have fire. I have a flamethrower. They're really good at taking care of things.
Maeve is a portable flamethrower.
Flammenwaffe.
Flammenwerfer.
Yes. I think this is a very good spot. I just really want to make sure that this cave isn't a bad place.
You
Just
call
make
us
sure.
over?
Yeah.
Do you see anything more? Because I can see in the dark.
Can you?
Oh yeah, you can see in the dark.
Mm.
Yeah, you can, pop your head in, just into this opening of the cave. You see, obviously in like shades of gray and white and black and all of that. And you can see it goes pretty deep. It seems to open up into a kind of like chamber. And for the most part, it seems like this cave was actually kind of human made, or at least humanoid made. A man-made kind of cave. It seems to have been cut in. It seems like as well you can make out very faintly like old casks and barrels. It seems to have been used as like a storage space at some point, perhaps for that village, further up, or perhaps for bandits at one point, or smugglers. It's not uncommon. But yeah, you can make out that in the darkness, but the rest of the chamber, for as far as you can see, is pretty much in black. You can't see all the way in. You
Yeah.
can see at least partially to make out these barrels.
This is a man-made cave, maybe a smuggler's hideout or something like that, from what I can see.
From like the deterioration of those casks and barrels, the ones that you can see, they're pretty much like fallen apart and rotten. So you can assume this hasn't been used in a very long time.
But I think it's old. I just imagine Saffi like looking over. How can you see anything here?
Yeah.
They have normal human eyes. What the fuck?
Look.
I mean, probably in the light like this, with like just like they probably don't look exactly human. These eyes.
She has special eyes.
Special eyes, like a Witcher a little bit.
You can't say in the dark because of this curse, or why?
It's the remnant of the curse.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, in The Witcher, when people have been cursed and the curse has been broken, they're normally left with some kind of residual magical effect or a habit that they had while they were cursed. Yeah, so for Catherine, it's she can see in the dark.
Maeve will
and a
look
few
to
other things.
Maeve will look to Rihanna and say, "I guess it's your lead now."
Fine.
Let's see if we can get our Witcher
This
killed
is
in
this
2
is
sessions in a row.
the Witcher equivalent of the D&D paladin going in the front while the rest of the party's behind.
You can hear the sarcastic, like, because Catherine also like can see relatively well in here, so she's also probably somewhat in the front. I just imagine like
It's
Catherine.
not-
Mhm.
I just imagine like Catherine and like Ryan going forward, and Catherine just let the injured person and the very experienced combat doctor go first.
All right. You'll have to
I
remind
finish
me,
the
Rhiannon.
longbow.
For witches seeing in the dark,
Mhm.
Rhiannon, are we following? Did I say we're following game or book lore on that?
I think we just went off what's in the like quote unquote race description for witchers in the book, which
Okay.
says Du-du-du.
And I quote.
It says, where is it? It actually doesn't say.
It's.
Where
I
is it?
believe you need cat potion, don't you, to see in the
Yeah.
dark,
No.
Yeah.
Witchers
or to
take
at least amplify it.
Witchers take no penalties from areas of dim light and gain an inherent +1 to awareness. I have on my sheet I have dim light plus darkness vision written down. So that's what you told me.
Yes. I think we went with book lore then. Because in the games, Geralt sees in the dark by drinking cat potion.
And then gets blinded when he goes outside
And
during daytime.
yeah, and ends up getting a negative, that kind of that effect of like really vivid, bright white light, basically when he's outside in daylight. So in the books, however, witches can actually trained to expand and retract their pupils in levels of light, and actually can see in the dark just naturally. So we're going with that because I'm a big book nerd for The Witcher.
Nerd.
Yeah.
Look at your face.
Really? Me, a book nerd? But yeah, so we're going with that. That's why Rhiannon can see in the dark.
Maeve just turns
Catherine
on a
also
lantern.
remembers she has a lantern.
Yeah, I would say Maeve turns on her lantern.
I also have a lantern that I just never use.
I just
It's-
made we
Okay.
probably
It
have
makes me
lighting
sad that
sources.
Maeve, then you turn on your lighting your lantern, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Rhiannon, like you're adjusting your eyes to the dark, and then all of a sudden, just like lamplight.
It's just,
So anything that was in the cave probably knows you're here now. There's like light going down the tunnel. But even with your heightened senses, you don't hear anything moving or that has noticed. So yeah, are you beginning to go down?
yeah, pretty much. Rihanna would probably, she left her horse at the like at the entrance of the cave, because why would you take her horse
Obviously.
with her in there? But she does have her. Okay, how high how wide is the cave? Would it be feasible for her to have her spear with her, or is it too cramped?
It's about 6 feet high. Like this, first of all, it's like the tunnel that you're in before it opens up into a big chamber. So at the minute, it's 6 feet high, and it's about 4 foot, 5 foot wide. So enough to use your spear as long as you're doing like short kind of stabbed motions rather than like swinging. You can't really swing. But
no, I'm not. She's not
yeah.
swinging her spear. Okay, yeah, then she would have her spear with her. And she's just like a little bit, like she's a little bit in front of the party, so she doesn't get like illuminated by the light too much, and she can actually like look into the darkness. And she would like lead on the party like that.
Okay. As you get deeper, you go into this kind of big chamber. You notice that obviously it was man-made. There are no branching paths or branching tunnels off it. It's literally just like an enclosed chamber. The roof is a little bit higher now. The ceiling is about 8 feet, 10 feet above your heads now, instead of just, the 6 feet above. And it's, much wider now. It's probably about 20 feet in diameter. And it does look, for all intents and purposes, like it was used for smuggling or part of a bandit hideout at one point. There are broken casks. In fact, there are some that are still intact and sealed, but they're kind of like wedged, like they've been knocked aside by things or just over the years. And as you walk in, the rest of you don't notice, as you know, Rhiannon is the first to step into this kind of chambered area. But Rhiannon, as you step forward, you distinctly hear a crunch underneath your boot. You know, your big weighted Witcher boot with the big spur and everything on it. You just hear a crunch.
What kind of crunch, Sarah? Is it
A very brittle sound.
Okay. As soon as she hears the crunch, she kind of like gestures everyone to stop, and she's just like, and then she kind of like slowly crouches down because her ribs still hurt, and she investigates the crunch.
Okay, you don't need to make like a check or anything. Where you've lifted your boot off and then crouched down to look, there are the kind of scattered parts of bone fragments. It looks like maybe it was some kind of thigh bone or leg bone off a creature.
I look at the bone as well. Can I identify what creature it is from?
You can make an education check.
Okay. Something definitely used to live here.
What's going on?
Still lives here. Which is concerning.
Yeah, 23.
You're not sure how old this bone is exactly. It's covered in dirt and dust, and it doesn't look like it's a humanoid bone. In fact, it kind of appears more like it's possibly from a deer, maybe a horse, something like that.
I imagine if I had to roll, if I had to identify a humanoid bone, I would have rolled Healing Hands because.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, she's, I don't know, some kind of animal. At least it's not a human or an elf or something.
Well, that could mean anything, but it definitely means that something, at the very least, used to live in this cave. So we should be alert.
A bear.
Yes, please. Pray that it's just a bear.
Okay.
And then she continues.
You're moving further in. And you continue walking forward. Your feet kind of scuff against a couple more animal bones. Not like an alarming amount. Some of them are just like little rodent bones, so clearly like rats and things that have died in here. And most of it is kind of you notice it's kind of just like a lot of dirt and rocks that appear to be in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And catching on your boots. The ground's kind of uneven. And you it takes you a moment because your eyes are still adjusting. It's kind of weird to do with like the lamplight behind you, but eventually Maeve's light catches up to you, and you don't need to rely too much on just seeing in the dark now, and you see in the middle of like this big chamber is this kind of sunken pitch in the ground of like churned up earth.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, my brain just completely blacked out. Can you repeat the last sentence you said?
That's okay. Sure thing. So you've been like kicking kind of like dirt, debris, and stones out of your way. The ground is kind of uneven, you noticed. And as Maeve's lamplight caught up, you see directly in front of you all now, as you're like in this chamber, in the ground, there is like this big kind of sunken, almost like pit. It's not super deep. It's just like this kind of divot, quite deep, like about 3 feet deep in the ground, of like freshly kind of churned up earth.
Freshly. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It looks fresh. It looks freshly disturbed.
That sounds to me like
Giant. 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 Giant.
something burrowing here. which could mean necrophages or insectoids or any kind of bullshit.
And does it look like a monster nest?
You can make a monster lore check.
I am definitely gonna make a Witcher training
I
check to
would
see
like to.
It's not
what kind of
a
nest
bear,
this is.
that much for certain.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled a 10. Another fumble.
A 10 is a
Okay.
crit.
You aren't entirely sure. This is like a
Wait.
is that a 10 like altogether? Did you get
Yeah.
Saffi? Okay.
Yeah, 1%.
I
Okay.
rolled a that was a 10, then another 10, 29, a 34.
So Saffi,
Jesus.
to you, it doesn't really look like much of anything. You've never seen a monster nest that looks like this yourself. Kind of the same way that you've never seen a rot fiend either. It just doesn't register to you as anything monstrous. Like, you kind of expect that whole like human bone sticking out of the ground and, all that stereotypical stuff.
Yeah, they have weird burying customs.
Yeah, like it's commonplace that a lot of monster nests have like human bones or remains and things like that in. But Rhiannon, this is definitely a monster nest.
Mm-hmm.
And considering rot fiends were what you saw in the village, the abandoned kind of camp area you left behind you, this is very much a necrophage pit. It is very much a rot fiend pit.
Mm-hmm. I was concerned it would be that.
And you know that rot fiends, as well, they kind of sense vibrations through the ground when they are buried underground.
So
do they sense crunches?
Maybe.
So is my medallion not going off at that? Because it's like 20 meters. Like we should be in like within 20 meters of that, right?
Yeah, not currently. But that doesn't mean that they're not in there. They can bury quite deep.
Yeah. Okay. She's gonna turn to Saffi and like whisper as quietly as possible, and she's like, How good is this place for your people?
They're just gonna say, why are you whispering? Why?
And she looks at them. She's like, is it having to clear out a nest of rot fiends kind of good for your people?
I would say yes, unfortunately.
God damn it.
Karen, it would be very... I do not think we would find another place this good. At least not for another day. And well, with the child and all, I think it's necessary. Sorry.
Fine. And she looks past
Rhiannon,
Saffi.
as you...
Sorry, she looks past
so carry
Saffi at Maeve, and she okay. Question about signs. Can I make the sign for like Igni or something without actually casting it? Just the hand gesture, or
Yeah,
is
you can
making
make the hand gesture. So it would be 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
But
so
why not Quen?
just making the gesture doesn't automatically cast. That's good.
No, like
Okay.
no, and
I would imagine
Igni,
if that was the case.
Igni anyway, you can just control by doing that rather than casting the actual sign,
Yeah.
which is how a lot of witches cast Igni, unless they're then using their hand for like a full force blast of it.
Yeah. Since Maeve is probably a little bit like behind Saffi or something, she just makes the Igni sign to her, as in like, get your fire ready.
You know, even just by now, Maeve is only fire. She is her only offensive ability.
And
fire.
plus as well, it's kind of like a little bit insulting to you, like Rhiannon used like a Witcher sign for like to indicate to you to use a sorcerer spell, because
Get that weak shit out of here.
Witcher signs are pretty much like baby's first attempts at magic. You know,
You can see
like
the look of the smirk on Maeve's face when you make the sign, and just shakes her head and says, "I don't need to use that childish magic."
and Rhiannon, as Maeve like says that to you like really
Maeve is-
sarcastically, like sardonically, I don't need to use that child's magic. You begin to feel your medallion shake very suddenly and harshly, and you will hear the sounds of cracking bones and the kind of sound of like almost like air kind of being sucked downwards as an arm reaches out of the pit and begins to claw its way to the ridge. And that's where we'll end it for this week.
Okay.
Damn
Perfection.
it. As soon as Maeve like opens her mouth to say something, Rion is just like, oh god, I just wanted you to not fucking talk.
You should know. Rhiannon should know by now. Maeve never is going to not talk.
So, we'll be back in a month now. This is a monthly game.
Yeah, it's gonna
now,
be. It's gonna like since this is like we're technically already in November. The next game will also be in November. Just like
yeah, with the end of November.
yeah, like in a few weeks.
Yeah. So, we'll say byes, do plugs and everything. So, Nova, who played Rhiannon today?
Hi, I'm Nova. You can find me on Twitter as Gift Nova Gaming, and I'm also here on Twitch just as Gift Nova, where I do a lot of like variety streaming stuff. I'm currently doing a let's play or like a playthrough of Sekiro, which is really fun and it's actually going pretty well. So, yeah, that's a thing that I do. And other than that, yeah, if you're new to this channel here and you like what you saw, then consider joining the Heroes Without Limits Discord, since we have that, and it's a really great community all about TTRPGs and hanging out and being cool, and you should totally join that.
Awesome. And Vex, who played Maeve.
Hi, I'm Vex. You can find me on Twitter at VexyHexy. You can also find me on Twitch, where I probably, now that it's getting cold weather and I don't have my computer overheating, I might start doing streaming again on my account. Even though that was a legitimate thing where my computer was running almost 100 degrees Celsius.
Oh,
so
God.
It was not happy. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch at Fractured Moon D&D, where I also run a TTRPG game ran by my great friend Aya Golander, which is Bubblegum Shoe, and where we play, it's called Saffron Academy, where we play a magical school, and we're all university-aged kids, quote unquote, who are currently trying to solve mysteries and stuff, and it is a lot of shenanigans and a lot of chaos. And that's it. I know Hera has a plug, but I'll leave that one for her.
Okay. And Hera, who played Catherine today.
Yeah, I am at Hera Hacks on Twitter, and as Vex already mentioned, next week, hopefully, knock on wood and what?
Said I didn't mention it, Hera. I left that for you.
Yeah, but you hinted at it. Is I will be starting a Masks game, Starfall Academy, also in a school setting, and it will be at 12:30 p.m. on Vex's channel. That she already mentioned, Fractured Moon D&D, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm a little bit nervous, but it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Sophia will also be there, and Vex, yeah, and some other people. Yeah.
And Sophia, who played Saffi today.
Hey, you can find me on the internet at Alzarla, ALZZARLA. And I do music commissions for your TTRPG character, which I will hopefully resume after I get my ADHD meds, because I can't do shit right now because my life is in shambles.
A mood. I think that's how 2020's been, really.
Mm,
Um,
And uh, what else am I doing? Don't really know. But
You're a
it would be
composer.
us. Huh?
You're a composer. You make music.
Yeah, I said that.
you just said that,
Say
Nova.
that.
Well, it bears repeating. Okay.
It bears repeating, but yes, I also have a SoundCloud, which you can find
See.
at Alsarla as well. And yeah, also, a friend is having a fundraiser right now for their uh, dental stuff. They have a wisdom tooth that needs removing, and the bill is way too high. Like, seriously, dental shit is
Yeah.
way too overpriced. Like, holy fuck. And I'm gonna drop the link to the fundraiser in chat. And I would really, really appreciate it if you could donate to that.
Yeah. Joe is an active member of our community.
Mhm.
Wonderful person. They did Mousecapades,
Which was awesome. You should
which
go
was
look at
an
that too.
amazing thing. You can watch it on our YouTube channel, which is
Mhm.
also Heroes Without Limits. um, and you know, like, please support them if you can, or just retweet, share, get the fundraiser out there. You know, they are, yeah, very much an appreciated member of our community, and a good friend to a lot of us as well. So yeah, all the love for Joe. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm Sarah, or you can call me Mustang. I don't mind. Um, you can find me on Twitter at Mustangs Art. I am a disability advocate and consultant. I currently work for Artosaurian Games on The Witcher that we just played, and also on Cyberpunk Red. You can also find my work with Paizo. I have done work for Starfinder and Pathfinder Second Edition. Red Scar Gaming, I am writing an adventure for the upcoming Hellboy, official Hellboy role-playing game. And also as well, I made the combat wheelchair. You can find that in my pinned tweet on my Twitter. It recently made its appearance in Critical Role. Very kindly, Matt Mercer included it in his game. And I as well have a line of miniatures that I've worked with a miniature company called Strata Miniatures to create uh, combat wheelchair miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs in general. And half of the proceeds from sales go to the Ayla Stanlos Society to help with raising money for awareness of Ayla-Stanlos syndromes, and also for more research to be done, and to better educate not just people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but also the people who care for them, or family members, friends, all of that good stuff. And yeah, if you're interested, you can find me on Twitter, like I said, at Mustangs Art. So yeah, and thank you so much for watching. About the end of this month, we'll have the follow-up to this. Sophia will be joining us again to play Saffi, while we fight some oh my god, the name
Rot
has gone.
fiends.
Some
Explodey
rat
boys.
fiends. Thank you. I put them on thread and I can't remember their names. But
I
rat
love
fiends.
fighting them.
Yes.
At least in
Um,
the video game, because
yeah.
it's easy. Just
Yeah.
okay, chop
So
once and then back off, and they kill each other.
So we'll see you all at the end of November for the next installment. So bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. And we're